Hot Take Point Made is back for the major. We are rolling through. Stage 2 just ended. So I'm sure lots of topical things to discuss, not just super... Like, I have to say, the problem we have on this show is what we always think is the sickest hot take is obviously the one with like the greatest tail. But then if you've noticed, they're not actually that good if they can only be verified in 4 years from now. So they just sound good in the moment. But I think also a key element of the hot take is it has to be able to be wrong and or be mocked and people tell us we're shit or whatever, you know, something like that. So who has the first hot take for this episode?
You know, I can do it. Whatever. I can start with mine.
Take it. If it's as good as your Twitter has been lately, Kassad, we're in for it.
It's so like crazy. That's what's happening on Twitter. Did you see that shit? It's like such an easy thing.
What's crazy is you on Twitter, Kassad. That's what's crazy.
Maybe a little bit. But anyway, the major episode or major edition of the episode of Hot Take Point Made, we're going to start with something that people don't expect. And I'm going to go, and this is where like, with me calculating all the odds, the form, the form, the current form of the players, and blah blah blah, whatever, right? And I'm gonna say this:
it's gonna be something mental, like 3D Max is making the semi-final. Go and hit me with whatever nonsense take this is. Come on, what have you figured out? What have you figured out, sir?
Falcons are winning the major.
Oh, how dare you say that after what you've done on this show for the last fucking 2 years or whatever.
I know.
And then here's the thing. If they win the major, though, your first tweet has to be like, well, like $15 million, all you have is one major. Like, that has to be the next thing. Surely, just to be on brand, that has to be the take the second after they win the major.
Of course. I mean, what else?
Go on then, explain to me, what possible number did you find, Mason, that tells me that Falcons is winning the major?
I looked at the most obvious choices, right? Out of all the teams that are kind of contenders on this major, right? We have several. I've looked at the form, the current form. Obviously, we are thinking about Furia, won 4 events. They're in the best form right now in this stage of the season. There are flaws there with like Molodoi being on his prime, the vibe of the major being completely different than any other event, and the pressure being completely different. We have Spirit in their game right now, which is flawed to say the least. After they brought in the 2 new players and the way they brought him in and integrated in the team is not to my likings at all. I think people will agree, and the results will speak for themselves. That's another team. Maus, you don't really count Maus on anything at this moment because they have problems of their own. If we go into that discussion, it's going to last for 30 minutes at least. Then you have Vitality, who had the first season which was completely out of this fucking world, right? And then the second season or the second part of the year is something different. They keep losing the best of 5s. They're not winning titles. They're struggling. The individual players are not hitting their form like they did in the first part of the year. And it's like all of that. And of course, we have the element of experience in the whole majors, right? And who has the more experience, who has the most, who has the least of these candidates. That's going to be like who performs well on stage, who isn't. Like all these things, all these calculations, and the fact, like, the stock is so low right now of Falcons and the odds are going to be so low that, with all the reasoning and all the reason behind it, you have to take it. Just to like reaffirm and confirm my choice here, I'm going to put money. I'm going to put actual money on Falcons winning it. If I can find a place to that's going to take it, right? I don't know. I looked for it, but I couldn't find it yet. But if I do find it, I'll put some money, and I can
maybe tell you one. I think I've seen one that you can do it, so I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'll post it publicly just so people know that I'm not fucking around when it comes to this. But I do think, reasonably speaking, right? This is not me like yelling at Falcons or Zonic or whatever the fuck, right? Reasonably speaking, looking at the form, looking at the players individually, looking at the timing and everything else together combined, the biggest chance right now to win the actual major, the biggest odds, the highest probability, whatever the fuck you want to say it, is Falcons right now. They have everything they need right now. Even though there is one small thing that I haven't mentioned is like that's going against them is the fact that they decided not to bootcamp before the major. That can be a really like a double-edged sword. It can blow back so hard. They fall in the group stage. They have the opening match against Bait, which is a terrible matchup. in a best of one. You don't want to play them. You don't want to play those kind of teams. But when you have to, you have to. It can start badly. They can drop out. They can be 1-3 like they did in the whatever the major was. And it can blow back hard on them, right? But it can also be a good side where you actually accomplish what they want to accomplish, rest, get mentally and physically ready for the challenge of all these teams and actually win it. Because they have been close in many events. I mean, even myself, who is like a professional hater of Team Falcons, have to kind of agree that they had so many close finals, semifinals, games that if they had something more going for them, a little bit more, we would be saying like they won 3, 4, 5, 6 events. Sadly, or fortunately in my favor, they won 0. So, So, like I said, this is just reason talking out of me. I looked at it logically rather than like,
emotionally.
Yes.
Okay. Go on, Maui.
All right. Keeping up the machismo, I suppose. So I looked at all the futures odds before the tournament started, and on a couple different websites, it was roughly speaking for Falcons 3.7 odds. So, they were tied with Vitality on the two websites that I looked at. Furia were the favorites at 2.75 roughly. So I don't think it's a crazy underdog pick. I mean, if you made any of the picks the S tier entering this tournament is Furia, Falcons, and Vitality. But I feel like it's hard to gauge without being in their camps to see what did they do. And that's where the fun of predicting is, because we don't really know. I don't know how serious they got. We do know that Falcons didn't do an in-person boot camp. I don't necessarily always think you need to, though. For example, 3D Max just came off of winning that 2-2 game versus NIP, and they just only prepped online, but they've actually significantly changed a couple of the maps in their pool and how they play them. So you can go over theory and play online scrims, and it still can be effective. I feel like what sucks about Falcons is it's also incredibly hard to qualify what is going wrong with them, because they get so close consecutively in these elite tournaments, but then they fall off just in the smallest ways, whether it's NiKo not performing on the final map, whether it's them choking a 2-man advantage post plant. These kind of issues consistently rear their heads. And for Furia, to their credit, I mean, I don't think it's a hot take necessarily to say they're the favorites, because by bookmakers, they are the favorites. The stability of the team is surprisingly commendable. I mean, and so that's kind of the one missing aspect of Falcons has just been stability or composure, where other teams have already shown that throughout the year. Vitality's obviously shown that in 8 tournament wins this year. Fury has shown that in 4 tournament wins this year. Falcons, they haven't shown it, and especially on this kind of stage, I feel like the likelihood that they show it would have been so nice for them if they won Hong Kong. I'll say that. If they won Hong Kong, I probably would be all in on Falcons, but sometimes it's just breaking that barrier is something you really need to do at a tournament that isn't the major first, so that you can ramp up into it and prove to yourself you can be winners too. That's my piece on that.
I actually think this is go on.
Just a short sentence, sorry. Is like when you mentioned 3D Max, the reason why they didn't go to boot camps and like they went a little bit is because they went Europe, China. I think that was the reason, because they stopped it. They were too tired. They couldn't handle it. They didn't plan their tournaments well. So they ended up going left, right, and that's why they did it. So sorry, Duncan, go.
I actually think it's quite a good hot take, but also just a good point. So it's a rare instance of where it doesn't have to be crazy spicy, because obviously the main spice here is 2-part. One, Kassad's obviously the guy who in theory is the Falcons hater, so people just wouldn't expect you to say that they would win the major. And then 2, they haven't won a trophy with this lineup. So even though they have all the other attributes in theory, it is a good hot take anyway, even if they are third in betting odds or tied for second, etc. Because I actually do think that's an interesting detail, is I can talk myself in or out of this take. I've thought about it myself before the major, because when I did counterpoints with Pimp before this major, we did this discussion of who's likely to win, etc. And the funny thing is, I actually am of a similar mind to Pimp. I still, if I put it this way, it's different to do, like we're saying, betting odds, or if you were to like put all the reasons on paper. What I always pick at the end is I do that logic of like, if I really had a gun against my head and I die if I get it wrong, who does my gut tell me I trust? That's actually, I think that's a pretty good sort of like, it ties in your intuition. I'm sorry, my gut still tells me I would take Vitality still. I still think they'll be the ones that'll somehow get it done. By the way, BO5 final also means I actually don't think any other than these three teams can win. I think people are forgetting that detail. It's a lot easier than fluke pages in the past. So, with that said, obviously they've had their weaknesses, but I also think they've also been incredibly close. They could have won like 3 events in a row, like they really could have. So but the reason why the Falcons one is good is because if I talk myself into it, it's easy. I go, the firepower can literally all turn up at the same time. That's what normally never happens in super teams. I've seen games literally, we've seen it in group stages tons of times, by the way, where Keisuke, NiKo and Mauisnake all came at the same time, and basically they just 13-6 any motherfucking team that walks in the server, which was obviously the dream of making this roster in the first place. So that's real. That does happen sometimes. Then, as I say, when they win, they don't just win, mate. They don't win like 13-10 all the time, like Paravision and fucking Furia. They 13-6, they 13-4. This team can destroy, in theory, almost anyone. But the problem then becomes, like I said, we've never actually seen this lineup lift the trophy. So that somehow there is like a security in knowing someone's done it even once. By the way, it does help me that Vitality did win that one trophy. That makes me at least think I can visualize how they would win it. But then the other thing that obviously makes this a really good hot take, I think, but a scary hot take, is right on paper, Mauisnake is the best player in the world right now. But I always think that one of the most underrated takes is, I'll tell you another reason why Mauisnake should be NiKo's best friend. Because NiKo takes all the flack for the fails at these massive fucking tournaments and majors. If you ever go back, yeah, we can all remember Copenhagen where Mauisnake probably was the best player. But aside from Copenhagen, boys, there have been some majors where Mauisnake also was choking his tits off. The difference is in the early days he was super young and inexperienced, so we gave him the break. And all eyes are on NiKo. The whole thing with NiKo is the entire sentence right now in NiKo's career is didn't win the major. Mauisnake, he hasn't had enough years to where that's like the ultimate failure. Like, it'd still be fine for him if he won 2 years from now. Like, it's reasonable to win at that sort of age. So I actually feel like that's the thing I'm concerned about. One, I have seen NiKo choke the fuck out of a bunch of these majors. And then 2, I still don't know yet which Mauisnake turns out. I feel like he's more of a coin flip. I might get the awesome Mauisnake who can be the MVP. So, by the way, they have an excellent chance, like we're saying. If he does anything bad, though, at this major, and he's not like those other tournaments, then immediately the legs are chopped out. I don't think they can do it. So I think it's a good take. And by the way, here's the part that I said on the thing. I have Vitality first. This is the other take Pimp had that was like a mildly spicy one. I also agree with him that of the 3, I actually put Furia third. Now, yeah, listen, I get it that in the same way as kassad, you're going to go, oh, really, Thorin? You found a way to convince yourself Fallen's team would not win the major. No, but I actually think for real, one, they win too close. And I know that, listen, that can be a great calling card, but they've only done it for a few events so far. They're not like actually Fnatic or FaZe or something where, they do it every time. How did they do it? The crazy magic. And crucially, guys, none of that was at a major. The last major I saw this roster at, I still, to this day, can't believe they lost that match to Pain. I thought that was one of the freest quarterfinals I've ever seen. I thought they should have been in the final, bro. Like that roster could actually have come online earlier. So that scares me a bit. Like, great, you cook it at all these normal tier 1 lands, but I've got to see it. The majors are different. They just are. And then lastly, that's the reason also why I am a bit worried for Furia, because the guy who shit the bed against Pain was fucking Molodoy. And again, I will not blame Molodoy, by the way, if he doesn't play at his peak CS like he has at his other tournaments in this major. It'll be his second major. As far as I'm concerned, he hasn't even played one real year at tier 1. I don't care that he's on Amcal. So the difference is, because I'll give him the pass, I do sort of feel like Furia, they had their peak. They did that. I think they'll probably be like a semi-team. So you know what? I don't hate it, because essentially I'm saying I have Falcons as my second most likely team to win. If I, again, gun to our head, if I had to pick who gets over the line, I think they'll do it. So I'll take Vitality first. So I disagree in the sense I'll take Vitality, but I don't hate the take. And obviously it's quite interesting in the context of your past history. By the way, 2 things though. One, you do realise you've walked into this one. Here's the obvious thing all the comments will be. They finally got the Saudi bag to kassad. They added the right number of zeros. They got him in the end. They realised, Kassad, right before they win the major, probably like some FIFA shit when they rigged it, they just like, we're going to buy off the main hater too, so then it just seems like everything's coming together at the perfect time. The joke is, the day after they win the major, Kassad on his Twitter will just announce like, Kassad X Falcons, like betting an esports company launches new consultancy firm to, and like exactly, to, like the call came through. And then lastly, the other reason why is because also, where was the other thing? Oh yeah, the other thing as well is I said it as a joke earlier, but I want to just ask you this one question back, which is, if they win the major though, because you're saying you'll bet money, but I want to know if you're willing to bet this. If they win the major, because bear in mind, by the way, there's all these other teams they could easily lose, and if they lose, you don't have to honour this part. But if they win, will you agree to not use that angle I've just said of like, 10 million, you only got one, like Australia spent like 3 million, they got like 4. Will you agree not to do that? Will you just honour like, okay, but they did get the major in the end? Will you let sort of, like, right, the slate clean, we're starting over. And by the way, will that then make Zonic not a fraud? Exactly, I actually have more questions than answers for this one. Will it make Zonic not a fraud anymore if they win? Will it make it the right move to go there from G2? I'm getting all the past hot takes. Will it make it not a waste of the 10 million if they win? I want to just know that, Kassad.
And I don't know. I
hasn't thought about it. Yeah, okay. Depends how he feels on the day when he wakes up, right? Okay.
The thing is, like, I can't. I mean, we like congratulate, like, players. Yes, because winning a major, no matter super strong.
You're not going to do it where you're like, congratulations to all the players. By the way, fuck the all $10 million. You're not going to do that, shit, are you?
Maybe. You don't know.
Oh, no.
The thing is, like, will I be saying that, like, it's like $25 million later and 2 years later, like? Is that the real? Is it the real satisfaction? I don't think it is, at least from our point of view. I don't know. It's just I had a much spicier take that I'm gonna save for post major, but like the thing is, like, I need to see what happens on the actual major. I can't agree to that.
By the way, I've even realised something pure banter, and I actually have got a prediction for you, because I just know what cocksuckers are like in the world, boys. Everyone mocks Falcons because they keep adding to the CS jersey all the EWC crowns, but not for CS. I bet they won't add the major. They won't add a star because logically they want EWC to be bigger than the major. I think they won't add I think the joke is if they win, they won't add one for the major. They'll just keep the EWC ones because it's sort of marketing for their tournament, isn't it? So I know it sounds mad, but that's actually my mad prediction. There's my mini hot take for you, because I sort of feel like that could be real. You know what I mean? And everyone will have to pretend it's totally fine, even though it makes no sense at all. I love it. Also, you've just reminded basically, Kassad, the reason why I'm scared you're going to do that to the org is because it reminds me of what my mate and also an analyst and former CS player Lurpis once did back in the day, which is, if you remember in the early days when NiP was the most dominant team, famously Lurpis, look, he was right, it's just, as usual, like me, he's an asshole, right? When NiP used to win all the tournaments, he used to just say, yeah, but if you look at how bad Fiflaren's stats are, eventually that will catch up to you and you won't win anymore. Like, you should actually probably replace him now, even though you're winning, because you could get an even better player. You could get an AWPer, for example, back then. If you remember, he used to AWP, actually. So, because at the time they won, everyone hated that take. And then, because of that, they did that thing where even though Lurpis never had a personal problem with Fiflaren, people made it like, you must fucking, that thing where they go, you must hate him. Did he fuck your mum or something? I noticed, by the way, when they hit on us, we didn't fuck their mums, apparently. Like, you know what I mean? Like, wait how that one works. But they were doing that. So, famously, what Lurpis did when they won the major NiP, and this is again, like, look, you're not wrong, but you're asshole, is he just did a tweet like, congratulations to @Forest, @GetRight, @Freiburg, @Exist, and then that was just it.
Yes,
exactly. They didn't say anything about Fiflaren. It was like, bro, come on, just give him a crumb of like validation, And then the weirdest thing about that one, by the way, is because years later they were both analysts. They actually both became like quite friendly after that. It was one of those like non-beefs like me and Fallen, believe it or not. But at the time, it was hilarious though. That's what I'm waiting for the Kassad tweet to do. Because low key, part of me does like put it this way: if they ever make the final, win or lose, I want to see what Kassad tweets after that final. I want to know.
Oh my God. I win both ways. Like, I think if they win the major, I was right. Wait a minute, Maui. Oh, now he's just giving the whole game away. He's actually he's just set up, hasn't he? That's why he's done it. Because that way, if they don't win, he gets to go, fucking wasted all that money. And then if he goes, I actually did. He'll even do that thing we do. He'll get this clip and he'll put it on he'll get this clip from the show and he'll put it on his Twitter like, she called it. And it's like, you just made a no-lose situation, whatever. That's how you
Exactly.
fucking live this life.
Okay.
You have to create opportunities for yourself.
True.
But the thing is, like, I win both ways. If they lose, they fucking get me more ammunition.
Yeah,
if they win,
true.
I say, "Tell I told you so."
Yeah.
They'll get the satisfaction of saying, like, "You see, fuck you, kassad, we won." You know, they get to say that, but still, is it good enough? You know,
Okay.
It's always a question. Who's
Right,
next?
Maui, in terms of, because I've been very carefully listening to what Kassad says, I tried obviously to hear what he was saying. So, do you have any advice for how I could pay attention to Kassad in future episodes?
Oh, okay, sure. Yes, of course, of course. Well, first thing I have to say is that this message is sponsored by Raycon, and you guys are all in luck because the essential open earbuds are here for the holiday season, and they're selling fast. Raycon audio products are up to 20% off this season, so you can go to buyraycon.com/hottakeopen. Open because of the essential open earbuds to save on Raycon audio products site-wide. Order by December 15th to guarantee delivery by Christmas because great gifts shouldn't show up late. Okay, so testimony though regarding Raycon stuff. Personally, I think my favorite aspect of them is the battery life. Like, I think that's easily the biggest difference maker between them and other in-ear buds that I've used. 36 hours. Okay, so I take a lot of long-haul flights. And one, these are extremely comfortable, and two, I don't have to charge them in the middle of a flight when I'm watching various media on my phone or laptop or whatever it is. So I feel like that is just such a huge difference maker. So yeah, instead of having to charge whatever you're using now in the middle of your long haul flight, just get Raycon. So, and make sure to use our code. That's Hot Take Open, HOTTAKEOPEN.
Yes. By the way, I'm actually just looking at them now on my phone as we talk. On this episode, I'm going to save my take till the end, and I'll figure out what it's going to be, because I was going to do one now, but there's actually, this is a rare episode, boys, where I want to feature a bunch of fan takes, because during the major, they've submitted a bunch, and some of them are fucking really spicy. Shall I give you one? Let's go with a fan take now. Listen. Luz Raposa says... Listen to this, boys. This is unbelievable. It says, if Spirit continue to bomb out of prestige events, they should sign Jame as their IGL, bro. Just because he got through these stages now in Spirit, okay. They should sign Jame as their IGL. Fallen has demonstrated that AWP IGLs can transition into rifle IGLs, provided their rifling ability is strong enough. And Jame's rifling is at least as good, if not better, than Chopper's. He also has a wealth of experience building a system around a naturally passive AWPer himself and an aggressive star rifler, Yakindar, Flit, and has won a major doing so with far weaker pieces than Donk, Shiro, and NiKo. Donk himself may benefit considerably from playing in a system that doesn't collapse whenever he drops fewer than 20 kills, just like Yakindar did in James VP and Fallen's Furia now. What do you think, boys? Jame as IGL of Spirit if they bomb.
Am I crazy, or this is not even that bad?
No, it's
Holy
not that
fuck!
bad.
Oh, go on, hit
It's
me then,
actually
boys.
not
Hit
that
me
bad.
then. Come on, hit
No,
me.
no, no.
not that
I'm
bad.
just thinking about the first few arguments he made. He knows how to play with.
Oh, he did a good job. He
AWPers.
made his points, yeah.
You know, the rifle, Fallen. He's definitely, good as Fallen with the rifle or Chopper. He's smart, at least smart as Chopper or more. When it comes to Fallen, I guess you can make an argument that Fallen is better overall as an IGL and in-game strategist or whatever. The defensive op kind of also makes sense. An aggressive rifler makes sense. Although he had Fleet and Fame back in Rio, and then right now we are talking about
Zalo.
Donk and
Oh, right, the Spirit, yeah.
Donk
Today.
and whoever
I don't know.
yeah. Does that make sense to me, or I'm just like too tired? Like, is it too late? So that makes sense, or it's just like I don't know. The thing is, like, for me to actually acknowledge that is a little bit difficult because the way Jame calls is still very, very passive, very boring, very, uninteresting, I guess. The thing is, like, the reason why they are playing the stage 3 right now is for several reasons, actually. They are obviously have some okay pieces, Nota and that Belchonok guy, and it's like, who are these two other guys? I haven't heard about them a single
I mean, the
time.
AW guy was really clutch in the stage 2 for
Yeah, but have you heard about him before? I don't think.
No, as far as I know, they're all nobodies. Yeah,
nobody's, right?
They're all rookies. They're all rookies, man.
And he made them work. Probably that the atmosphere is good, the environment, whatever. They clicked, and then people don't know much about them, so they are underestimating them. They underestimate the firepower. They underestimate, the whole structure and the way they play. And they paid the price. I mean, the way they beat NIP yesterday was a little bit, crazy, like the overtimes and stuff like that. So for him to go to Spirit wouldn't mesh with other players, even though on paper with the arguments that this guy is saying makes sense in a way, right? So I have to give a props for this person who delivered this hot take. I think he was onto something. He was thinking about it properly. Like he was actually thinking rather than some past ones that we had some nonsense being said. So, respect for that guy. But I don't think I would do it. I wouldn't think I would pull the trigger on that one because I don't know how much I can trust Jame as a rifler and his capability of playing IGL rifle.
It's a good take. I mean, I think I agree as well. I feel like the Spirit system right now is clearly lacking in a couple different dimensions. I feel like it's not. I think it actually worked before when you had two passive pieces in Zontix and Magix that just knew how to fill in. But now that you have Zwei and Tanir who are looking for their own fights here and there, or just being a little bit more selfish, if I'm being completely honest, they're just more selfish than the last two guys. Then Jame has a way of making everybody a lot more cohesive. I feel like he's also made the team. The thing is that I think the style is something that it kind of makes sense that he has rookies. Like he's not really, trying to dive deep into like getting map control in like 3 different spots, then trying to manipulate rotations all the time. Like that's maybe like 1 out of 7 rounds for Jame right now, or Paravision, but I'd say 5 out of 7 or 6 out of 7 of them are just more related to getting some map or defaulting for like a minute and then just doing a sight hit. It seems a lot more straightforward. Yeah. I don't know if that's necessarily better, really. I mean, I think Chopper has been kind of, I don't know if he's really been underrated, but he's been attacked a little bit more than I still feel is necessary because I still just think the biggest problem on the team is Zwei. So I would just replace, if you wanted to take about Spirit and what they should do after the major, I would look to a Zwei replacement before I look for a Chopper replacement, and one that's as drastic as that.
The problem I have with this take, what are you going to say? Go on.
No, say it. I'll ask later.
Basically, I will say the part of the take that actually gives me some reason I can agree with it is the idea that he is doing the Fallen. He has to give up the AWP completely. By the way, Jame is still actually a fairly decent AWPer. Like, he's actually much better than Fallen and Gady and all those other... Like, he can still do the AWP. It's just, the difference is I'm with Maui. If you're going to do that, though, he has to be on a team like this, where he also has total control over the... Like, those people look like they are his chess pieces, mate. They do whatever he says, which I think is awesome for his style. But if we're in this world, we're going the Fallen route. By the way, I also agree. I think he'd be a better rifler at the moment. Like, it's the thing I don't get about the Fallen angle. This is why I know you're Brazilian or he's just your dad. He's like 34 years old or something. You're talking like I'm crazy and I'm like, this is like Braithwaite. I would never pretend right now Cristiano Ronaldo's the fastest player in the world. That'd be stupid. He's 40 years old. It's a stupid take. So that's why when people tell me like I'm hating, like you're the one pretending it's 2016, motherfucker, it's 2025. So the difference is Jame is way more like still in his like mechanical fucking prime or whatever, still just a good player. I could easily believe like he could swap to the rifle and do a competent job. I will say one thing I'd have to see though, and I had to see this with both Fallen, and I didn't see it with Cadian, is it's not certain you'll call the same way without the AWP though. That is an issue, because I do think, especially because remember, James also a pretty good like clutch player with the AWP. So I also think, just like Cadian was, you're going to call a game really differently as a IGL when you do that. It's actually why I wondered would Fallen make it when he made this swap off. I used to think maybe that was half of his game, was like thinking as the AWPer, but then also the IGL, So I'd have to see that work. I will say, As I've pointed out on a lot of our shows with Maui, I do think people have really misunderstood. I actually saw they did, I think, an article on HLTV about this, and they nailed it. It's only on CT side that they still do the Jame shit, where they like save a lot because it's CT side. And then secondly, he does still do like the old Zeus gamble stacks all over the place because he obviously trusts his read, doesn't he? But on T side, by the way, just go watch that fucking epic Legacy does too. They don't just walk all over the map really slowly like old VP. They literally do like explosions onto the site. He even does, are you ready? This will actually blow your mind if you really haven't watched Jame play it in CS2. He even does 5-man rushes. For real. Like, that actually exists now. That's why the joke would be, it isn't like your Kindar goes in first, and if he gets 2 kills, then people follow him up, and maybe they get aggressive for once. Actually, the team on T-side is better. So in that sense, by the way, that part maybe even would work in Spirit. Because the problem I have here, obviously, is, if this guy's doing the take of, like, we're going to have old Jame, the one that won the Major, but just be the IGL of... Spirit, but not AWP. I don't think that would actually work. Like for a start off, one of the things that's implied with Yekindar leaving VP, by the way, is that even though it worked, it was some like Shaq Kobe shit where it's like, I don't really agree with how you play, but we're pretty good together. So while it works, let's stay together. Like, I don't think Yekindar and James saw the game the same way at all. In fact, I actually think that was almost part of this charm, wasn't it? It was like some crazy fire and ice, like, where do we meet in the middle and how do we like make your strengths work with my strengths and all? The problem I think is this: if you really made Donk just your job, you're not allowed to have agents, you just have to listen to Jame. I think you might ruin Donk's game. Like, Donk has to be super aggro. You have to let him off the leash. That's one thing I actually will give props to Halley and Chopper. I think they do that, mate. I think if anything, their logic is if Donk goes too far, it's like you send another person with him, or you use more utility, or you call the other site or something. So Jame would have to be open basically to the idea he isn't totally the chess master. He is going to let Donk basically act on his own, and he's more going to, and by the way, I like the Shiro angle. At least you'd have a sense of how Shiro might play. That's a good take. That's a pretty good... By the way, whether I agree with this hot take or not, it was actually a very well argued hot take and well presented one. I think that part was good. I also do think, though, an aspect of this major that I think we're really unfair about is this. You notice in the interviews, a lot of the players are also giving Dastan a lot of credit, who obviously was the coach in VP.
Yes.
The problem here is, presumably, he'd have Halley as his coach. It wouldn't be Dastan. So there's another one of those ones where you never know how that's going to blend together, It doesn't seem to me like Halley and Jame have the same philosophy on CS. I'd have to see how that works out, because I get the vibe, we've said it on the show many times, that's why I don't even hate on Chopper that much, because I get the vibe it's more Halley's team and his project, and Chopper is his IGL for now, and he does some of the things he wants to do, but I don't think this is how Chopper would necessarily call if he was in another team. Like, if you swap the teams, if Chopper goes to Paravision, I imagine he calls a very different game without Donk. So I'd have to see that aspect. And then finally, what I would just say is this. The reason why it's a bit of a wild take is because you've picked the moment when Spirit have basically made their roster as much of a mess as you can possibly make it. Like, they don't even know which 5 players should play. They don't even know how to make this work right now. It'd be very different if this was the take about the old Spirit and it was like, right, all we're doing is taking out Chopper and putting Jame in. That would be an interesting angle, where it's like the rest of the team's set, everyone knows their roles, everyone's playing, you've already seen the highs and lows, and all you do is change the IGL. Because one thing I do worry about is what I would call the Liquid effect, which is, Liquid doesn't sign 5 players, release 5 players. They sign one player, remove one, sign a different player for a different person, remove him, and eventually you're just like, what even is the team anymore? There's nothing we can go back to, and we're trying to go for. So essentially, I just don't know what the shape would be. So here's the thing, I don't hate it, I just don't necessarily agree. And the last reason why is, like I said, I do think Jame isn't just an IGL. Put it this way, I've told this story before, maybe Kassad can remember, if you can remember really old school CS. Right, when Carrigan first became an IGL, when they were like TSM and Dignitas, when it was the Astralis core, a lot of people won't know this. They didn't play at all like FaZe with a totally open, just all free-for-all system. They were Danish. They had tactics. Maybe they weren't at the level of, fucking Glaives, but they did have tactics and they did have protocols and they would do things on CT side. He clearly called some of the setups and stuff. It's later in FaZe. The reason Carrigan became famous as a super loose caller is because, remember, he had the craziest on-paper super team of all time. His support player was fucking Olaf Meister, who a year and a half earlier was the best player in the world. So in that world, he understood. I was talking to him at the time. Like, you give it's Real Madrid, mate. You give us the players as much room as they can. It's the Ancelotti theory. And they figure it out, and you just do the little tweaks between and make the overall call. So essentially, my point is this. I think Carrigan did adapt to some degree to his players. That's the one last thing I'd ask about Jame, is would Jame actually adapt to Donk and the other players? Or does Jame view the game as, because I get the vibe this is what Cadian did, I'm sort of the big brain, and I'm playing StarCraft, and you're my unit, and I tell you, A move to here and attack this piece. Well, the problem with that is, maybe Shiro will do that. Maybe fucking Zwei will do that. Maybe a bunch of them will do that, but I don't know that Donk will do that. I get the feeling Donk's whole shit is like, don't put me on the chain, motherfucker. Like, I just do Donk things, you know. And isn't that what we love about Spirit in a way? So I'm sort of in the middle on this take. I don't hate it. I'm not totally against it.
I was gonna say when you mentioned the Carrigan and Team Solo, TSM or whatever, right? Question mark, whatever they were. Right? He had the pieces that would perform at the highest level they possibly could with strats and structured gameplay and all of this right now. If you tried that in phase, you would miserably fail because you have different style of players. That is what made.
That's why I give him props, though. That's what I think makes him sort of goatish. Yeah,
that's why Carrigan is the conversation, if not the GOAT of the IGL.
Yeah,
because you need to understand what type of players you have.
Yes,
right. Carrigan has his fails. He could have been a better IGL than he was if he allowed some coaches in his career to help him, and so on and so on. Right? Remember the phase era where they played without the coach practically. Like, it's just, but the point stands. He knew, even in Maus, if you remember,
absolutely
with Frozen and Voxic.
He's the one who figured out how to get Robs to go on those spots. Yeah, all that shit. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So, you have to understand what type of players. Now, when it comes to Spirit, would Jame be able to do that with Donk? And I was going to ask you at the beginning, Maui, but maybe you can answer me this. Because you mentioned, and I do agree, that the Zwei, or Zwei, how they call him in Serbia, is the weakest and the biggest problem in Spirit right now. Because he seems lost. At least that's what I saw. Who would you replace him with? What do you put at that position? Do you put back Zontix? Or what do you do?
Yeah, I think it's simple. I think Zontix took a health leave or a mental health leave, one or the other. It doesn't matter to me, but good for him for seeking recovery. But I mean, yeah, I think Zontix is the easiest one-for-one replacement ever. Yeah. Magix is I'd say the thing with Magix is that my initial take on the Zwei move was that you lose a lot of X factor in terms of intangibles. You lose that, a guy who knows how to play the role to a T, who's been molded to play that over years and brings experience, and he brings atmosphere, versus bringing a guy that technically this is like my original take about it, that has like maybe a 15% higher ceiling than Magix, but you're losing so much in terms of experience. And we could see in these first 6 months, Zwei just didn't get it. I mean, the only team that he was good against was Maus, and you could kind of pick Magix for where he was good against random top 5 teams. You know, he had those moments as well. So, but their floor was clearly higher with Magix. They were just not getting grouped. And with Zwei, he gets grouped. He loses rounds for them more frequently than Magix does. So I would have gone, Zontix is the easy pick. I would even probably, if I just want to win a tournament tomorrow, I'd take Magix. I understand why you'd want to maybe try to future-proof yourself a bit more. But Magix is still relatively young. I feel like people think like, just because he's been on this team for so long, he's washed. Dude, he's 22. That's insanely young. Crazy. That's like not even supposed to be your prime yet in this game. I feel like your prime's more like 25 or 24.
All right, I am Thorin, so I'll just say it. Yeah, it's because he looks like someone's fucking dinner lady from school.
Love you, Magix. Love you, Magix.
I also do, but it's true, innit? Again, it's just you're not supposed to say it, but the story of my life, it is true, though.
Exactly.
He looks like he's like, what do you want? Salisbury steak. Again, love you. By the way, I also love his personality. He's a hilarious person, but whatever. It's all good.
Great.
Right, do you have a take, by the way, Maui?
I have a lighter take.
Yeah,
I have a lighter take. I was trying to come up with hotter takes, but this one is just, it's all I'm thinking about.
Okay, come on.
There's a couple that I have that the internet is just sending me lately. I feel like the discussion, the discourses regarding elements of the broadcast have just been driving me mad in terms of what community perception is of them. But the hot take is simply this. Losers' interviews are good. Losers' interviews are a good thing.
Okay.
Losers
That is a hot
interviews are
take.
good.
Okay. I feel like I have to go really against the grain right now. Okay.
I feel like
Fucking insane or what? Like,
no way. You think this? No way. No, it's losers interviews, especially elimination interviews, are a good thing. I will say, okay, let me first say my piece on that. It is so important in the storytelling of these players and their journeys to catch them when they are at their lowest low, because in the eventual build-up, as some of them will go on to become champions one day, you'll remember them when they're tearing their logo off of the elimination wall, signing that poster, and giving a heartfelt interview to James Banks as they're in tears practically. Some of them were literally in tears.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's all good for what the game needs, for what broadcasts need. I feel like there is a conversation about the execution of the segment regarding the elimination wall and maybe the music or how long the segment goes, all of that. But in general, I do think that losers interviews are hugely important. They are frequently and I'll try, actually, you know what? I'll move away from the appeal to authority. The appeal to authority was just that in mainstream sports they have losers interviews.
Of course.
But
yeah.
But I'm just constructing my own argument for them, which is that imagine even I mean a great example of a heartfelt losers interview at this was Call Me Sue or Amelia Quack or whatever for Lin Vision. They got destroyed. He was crying. He was such an eccentric personality, lively at Austin. Really, I captured the attention of a lot of people. And to see him at his lowest low, imagine he comes back and Lin Vision actually make it to the top 16 or make it to the playoffs. I mean, we're going to remember that moment and how hard he worked and how hard he grinded. And it's also a reason where Corsi gained a lot of respect from the community after their Austin interview or their Austin leave when he personally had a very difficult time in that elimination and that playoff match. So it made me in a way root for Torzi more than anybody even else on Maus. I actually felt like him giving his time and emotion to the broadcast and showing the whole world that is braver than just walking away saying losers interviews are dumb, whatever. It's all good. It's a good losers interviews are good.
You have to understand, Maui, you have to understand, you have literally queued up for Kassad for like some pink mouse territory. I can already tell. So hit me with it, Kassad. Come on. Hit me with the old dad harshness. Come on.
Just fucking nonsense. Like that Emilia thing was just so bad. Like the guy just started crying, I miss my dad or whatever the fuck he said. It's like
it didn't get to you. It didn't touch you over you. Okay.
No. You're not you are a grown ass man. You live in a world like
I knew it was going this way. I knew it.
That's fucked up. That's full of injustice, and you are crying in front of the camera because you miss your dad and your mom, and they're like literally one flight away, and you're gonna see them tomorrow.
It's true. It's like, it is true.
It's fucking mental. The crying on the little thing. Like I would understand. We had like God forbid some tragic case in his life, and I can understand that.
Yeah.
Right, but this thing is just nonsense. The music, while they're standing 5 or 6 of them, the music like it's a pure funeral. Like standing there is like, oh, dearly, they passed away. So it's just fucking terrible. The questions are even worse. Banks, disaster. Like all of these things.
That's all he has on Banks. Banks, disaster. Next. Like, okay.
Disaster. Like delete the whole segment of the whole thing.
Okay.
Like and Mao is just putting up a point that's even mind blowing for me. Like you wanna use their depression and the tragic moment of losing.
He wants to tie the worst moment to when they succeed
as
later.
an investment.
Yeah.
It is an investment.
Yeah.
It is
but how many of them are actually going to succeed?
True. That is true.
Like one of them.
Very few.
You
very
mentioned Torji and that's it. I mean, what about the other 87%? What are they going to do? They're going to see that moment forever captured on the internet. Like, they're standing there. Nobody wants to be there. I'm up for losers interview. Yes, okay. Like, listen, get the oldest player. Get the coach. Get somebody who is close. Manager, somebody to say, listen, doesn't have to be the manager, but the coach can do it and they should do it. And you mentioned other sports. They do it because they're contractually obligated to the organization they're playing for. NBA, you know that they have to do because they have it in the contract.
Yeah.
They have to do the losing interview. In the finals, in the playoffs, in the games, whatever. They just have to do it. Not just because they want to do it, so they can capture the bad moment in NBA semifinal Eastern Conference, Game 7. So they can 3 years later play that moment. Nobody gives a fuck about that moment. Show me the celebration. Show me the guys who won. The same like in tennis. Like the guy who wins, he stays there. He signs the camera. He talks. He gives the interview. The guy who loses picks up his shit and goes home.
They do in the finals do lose an interview, but I get you. You're right. You are right. In the rest of the tournament,
in the finals, yes. Yeah. Okay,
sure.
In the finals. But in the rest of the games, you're just out.
Yeah.
Do that for the CS. Talk to the coach. Listen, then he can say, listen, they were better in the clutch situations. They won 5 or 6 pistols. We made some crucial mistakes here. It is what it is, blah, 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 whatever, the normal stuff. I don't want to see 6 depressed kids sitting on a wall, being forced to be that music, looking at banks and 25,000 people. I guarantee you, tell me how many people have actually watched that, on the actual broadcast. 50,000, 60,000, you can say 200,000, right? 90% of those people were laughing when Emilia was crying. 90%.
That's a hot take, but okay, fair enough.
90%
that's crazy.
of them. 10% were maybe poor guy.
I think the trolls got to. I feel like people get into that shit and get sentimental because I don't know if they're really laughing look at him, he's crying, little bitch.
No, but they were just, look at this idiot. 100%.
Okay,
I am telling you that with 100% accuracy that 90% of the people were just fucking reacting look at this fool. Right?
Could be some xenophobes out there, I don't know. People who hate Chinese people, whatever. Maybe there's some Japanese people watching, I don't know.
Yeah, we never know, right? But the thing is, the bottom line is, exit interviews, yeah, I agree. They should be done in a certain way, but not as an investment for the future fucking hype.
Okay.
I don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that. Just let them go. Back up their shit, go.
What I'll do is, first of all, I'll actually sort of agree with Kassad a bit. The way they're doing exit interviews here, I hate. And here's why. Because first of all, even though Maui built that as part of his narrative, the interview itself, I don't in theory have a problem with, a bit like Kassad said, if you do it differently. But the one part I actually do hate Maui, I'll make it more of a hot take. The worst part of the exit interview is this weird thing where you have to do this walk of shame and tear your logo off the wall. That is some fucking weird shit, mate. What next? You also have to go over and sign a thing I am a fucking loser, signed my real name, my dad's name is, and I lived at this address. What are we doing? Holy fuck, he lost the tournament already. Let him just get the fuck out. He's already lost, mate. And then also, the other thing Kassad touched on there, it's one thing if the captain or someone volunteers to do the interview. Why, when Major was doing that interview, were the others lined up they were about to be shot by a firing squad after this and it was his fault? That was mental. Why are they stood there? One of them was crying too. He wasn't even talking. It was so bizarre, wasn't it? I was watching this mate, I'm a professional hater of this team and I can't even handle this. Give him a break. I don't even like Major, but this is fucking mental. They were all stood there well, you've done it, man. It was some fucking stand and ollie shit. Well, no, look at what you've got us into now, Major. We're going to be fucking killed because of this. Bloody hell, I know you lost to a chance, but it's not that bad. So there's that. There's that. Listen, there's that, which I don't like. But also, the other problem I have is this. The part that, unlike sports, doesn't work is obviously the average age of a sports athlete is older when they do this sort of an interview than a pro player who's 21, from Eastern Europe who barely speaks English. So the other problem you get is it's not usually as good as the sports interview would be if they did the exit interview. If they actually cried in the exit interview in sports, it's probably some epic moment that and they have some, it would be the story Maui's saying. I feel there's a vibe. Maybe you guys agree, maybe you don't. I feel at this point, that music, the point is for you to cry in these exit interviews. You're almost expected to do it, mate, as all you're supposed to show how much you cared by crying, which is that feels a bit exploitative in a way, And also, they're nerds. The other guys are jock athletes who are oh, what happened? You just lost in battle there. These guys are I should have fucking thrown that bit of smoke on my rash. No, fuck off. Whatever. That part, I know what you mean, Kassad. I don't get that sentimental. I'm listen, motherfucker, if you really, I'm going to do with Kassad. I'd just be listen, if you're that sad, fucking maybe figure out how to swing wide on shot, you dickhead. That's more what I'd be on the vibe of, rather than oh, no. Because I agree. Yeah. That take doesn't even work, Emilia. Think about it, mate. Logically, if you'd have stayed in the tournament, you'd have missed your parents even more because you'd be at the tournament more. Logically, we just helped helped you. We were sending you home to them. There you go. Their son isn't top 16 in the world.
Thanks was like, that guy.
Message to Amelia QAQ. Yeah, whatever. I know. It's all good.
He should have said that.
But here's where I actually do sort of agree with you. Maui actually nailed it. The Torji one's the best example, right? I think before that Torji interview, most people never gave a fuck that Maus choked because they just looked at it. Remember, none of them are like the best player in the world. None of them have some like history of dominance. So most people just had the whole thing like they're just fucking losers. But when you saw like the impact of him losing, especially because he played awesome in that one map, I think that made people actually start to pull for Maus. I think that it humanised him in a way that made, like the joke is I'm not even a fan of his AWPer that much, but that made me even sort of like, oh, this is kind of a shame that he's getting wrecked like that. And it got to me a tiny bit. Look, then I was like, what am I talking about? He's not even as good as he. We doesn't deserve to win the Major. But I came back to the elitist, don't worry about that. So my problem is this. I don't hate the idea of doing the exit interview, but I do think I would be a bit more classy about it. Like, first of all, I would also not do it instantly. You know what I mean? I'd give them like 10 minutes to compose themselves or something, or I'd ask them to do a post-game conference after they go back to the room and come back so they can think what they want to say, etc., or how they want to represent themselves. Because I also do worry, by the way, that when you get someone raw like that, it's why I actually think the UFC doing post-fight interviews where people will be knocked out is one of the most irresponsible things in the history of sports. What if the guy just said some mad shit when his brain just got disconnected 30 seconds ago? What if he said some political shit or something about his fucking family? Or what if he just said, you know what, actually after this fight I'd like to murder that guy in real life or something? Oh, what the fuck? It's live TV. So look, I don't think nerds are going to say that, but one of them might fuck up if you're thinking of like pro players and say something that sounds like he threw his teammate under the bus or he thought the veto was wrong, and then that can just cause you a bunch of heartache, you know, when you've already just lost the bloody major. You can even get kicked from your team if you fuck that up. So what I would say is this, I'm with Maui. I do think exit interviews are good, but if you're very selective, and last thing I'll say is this, I think you should put a lot of thought into who does the exit interview. Like, in general, I'll actually say, I'll do one of my, like, weird sexist takes, which is, I actually think from the history of esports that I've seen, there are certain women who are better than any man I've ever seen do an exit interview. Because a lot of the women I know in esports also do actually, like, connect with the personalities of the players on an emotional level and like follow their stories and know them in real life. So Smix was a great example of this. If you remember when she used to work in CS, I can tell you backstage, she used to literally cry when like Stewie 2K would lose the tournament or something. I mean, the joke is one time she did turn to me. She didn't even tell you this in real life, boys, don't worry, like in public. One time she turned to me and she goes, something like, I'm so nervous for this match. And then because I'm me, I was like, yeah, it's fucking dope, innit? Like, you know, whoever wins, it's going to be a big game. She was like, no, because I just want them both to win. And I was like, oh, boo, fuck off. Like, one of them has to lose. That's what dominance is. That's what being conqueror is. But that was the thing. To her, there was going to be a loser no matter what. And she felt for them no matter who they were. So the difference is when she would do an interview, I think she might even be the one, I can't remember if it's her or Frankie, who did that interview with fucking Twists after they lost that Starladder Major where he was like, we're going to win the next one or whatever the fuck, or win ESL New York or whatever. I think if you do it with tact and you connect with the player, you could actually make it like, first of all, you can help them if they're a little bit emotional. You can give them an outlet to say what they want to say. I think you've just got to be really, really careful. I don't think you can do that like a normal interview. Like, I think the problem, I don't even think anyone's doing this maliciously. I think the current approach to exit interviews is people try not to insert themselves. They just ask a generic question, so what happened? And it's like, for me, that's too brutal. You can't have don't make this guy start thinking. I'd say stuff like, you know, and how are you going to respond to this? Or, you know, what are you proud of in your team? I know it sounds like fluff, but the point is you can't go hard on them, in my opinion, the loser interview because it's such a bad moment. I don't think that's an appropriate moment to grill them or to, like, British, I know she never did this in the exit interview, but that wouldn't be the moment to do like that Frankie Alexi thing, like, why do you call shit on T-side then on train? It's like, that would be mental if you did that in an exit interview. And I'm worried that we come a tiny bit too close to that sometimes. So if people are careful, I don't mind them. I knew kassad would be against it though on that lines alone. Because his whole shit's like, stop crying, you fucking little pussy. You think Michael Jordan never cried, you little bitch. Like,
yeah, exactly. Stop fucking crying.
I knew exactly you were going to say that. I knew he was going to go with that.
Shut the fuck up and go back home. Anyway. Like, why are you crying? Like, give you the fucking reason to cry if you continue. No, but
that's how Renegades used to be after they lost the major.
No, the thing is, like, I do agree with you on a couple of things. Like, I don't think there's anything malicious when it comes to Starladder and doing like this. I think they're just doing it wrong. Like, they're doing it in the wrong way, and the whole like process is wrong. That's all. And of course, only women doing exit interviews should be a thing because they're more like gentle creatures.
I feel like they are. Yeah,
they're emotionally easier to connect with. They will, you know, it will come more natural for a player to answer the questions rather than like having fucking pet arm of James Banks hugging me if I'm fucking crying. Like,
I didn't co-sign any of this James Banks slander in this episode. Listen, I didn't say I
Yeah,
totally
I
disagree,
know.
but I didn't choose to put this out there. If I want to get in trouble, mate, I'll do it myself. It's all good.
Single signature from me.
I'm just in the episode. Just in the episode. And now he has to work with him, so we're all just in the episode.
The thing is like, yeah, fuck that guy. The thing is,
Oh my god.
the thing is like, it could be done the right way. Like I said, only women. By the way, when you speak about women on broadcast and everything, Donna is doing a great job, I think, right?
Well, you know what I love there, Kassad? I saw for a second, like, Maui's eyes, just like, the sentence was like, when you talk about women on broadcast, and Maui's eyes were like, where's this going?
I know.
Please get to the end of that sentence. Get to the end of this sentence. Oh, whew, yes, I agree. Donna is doing a good job. Yes, she is doing
I was going to just commend and praise Donna for doing a good job. It looks like she's doing that for years now, right?
Okay.
And that's
No, she is. Yeah, she's killing it.
Yeah,
mate.
she's doing a good job.
Especially when you remember, mate. I tell it, people might be able to guess I'm not a fan of Ori Pixel's style of streaming. That is not for me. And by the way, I only knew her as Nexus girlfriend at the time. I wasn't a big fan of her interviews on that stream. It was just like some streamer shit, like, hey, JW, what's going on? Mate, she's doing a really good. As someone who hasn't done a lot of professional interviews, she's doing a great job, I think. Yeah, she's managed to bring a little bit of that personality, but then she's also putting on some of the professional sheen and doing right. I like it. Yeah,
well dressed, spoken, and it's like just for the on the right level for the right event. That's what I'm saying.
All right, here's my take. Right, it's one of those ones where you got to follow the logic here. Like, I can't. Essentially, I'll say it in one sentence, but the reasoning why will be like a little bit weird at first. Basically, Glaive has just retired now in 2025, and think about what you just said in this very episode. Perfect cue up for me, Kassad. Actually, a lot of people now, the real reason they think Carrigan is the GOAT, and you just saw when they polled those players at the major, they all think he's the GOAT, bro. Like, it's not even like that close. Like, they have him as their GOAT now, right? One of the reasons why isn't just, even though it is also, that, you know, he's still around now and he's won trophies recently and he's done it in CS2. That's part of it. That helps because obviously at the same time Glaive wasn't doing it, etc. But I actually think one of the biggest factors is exactly because Glaive left fucking Astralis and went to Ents, which, listen, wasn't a great lineup or anything, but he came nowhere close to anything Carrigan had ever done. He didn't even look ever like, no one was even saying his calling was great. So my hot take is this. If basically, when we went online in 2020, Glaive just retired then, he just said, right, that's it. Because remember at the time he went out for he had that thing where he had to go the fucking 3 months out of the game. If he'd have just said, you know what, actually guys, I've got all these health issues with myself, I had that lung collapse, I call it quits, I'm done. Right, here's why. Everything else could happen. Carrigan's career is identical after that, right? But all that happens is Glaive retires, you just never get to see him play in the dodgy Astralis, and you never get to see him in Ents. I think, as of today, everyone would say that Glaive is the GOAT. And here's why. Because I actually think when all these players say Simple's the GOAT, I actually think it helped him he didn't play the game in much in CS2. If he'd have played in CS2 and just been worse than Ziwu, they'd all say Ziwu was the GOAT. I know what players are like. What they do now is, if I ask you about Simple, none of us really count this point in CS2 yet, because he hasn't really done it. So all we're thinking of is peak Simple, like basically the end of fucking Na'Vi and all the great years. We're just thinking of him at his peak. I'll give you another example. The joke really is, actually Michael Jordan probably should not have played for the Wizards. I like that he did, because he was actually very good as an old guy, and it was just cool to see. But I'll tell you what, here's why it's perfect if he hadn't have done it. Because if he'd have retired on that championship, we wouldn't have known he'd have gotten worse. Your brain would go, bro, he was like 38. Maybe he could have played at like 42. Maybe he could have been the best at 45. The maybe would have carried his legacy, and then a LeBron could never beat him, especially if you then play to old age. So the problem Glaive has basically is this. Remember, the reason why it's key is Carrigan only won one major, but I think people look at the fact that he used all those different rosters, he changed style, he changed star players, he changed fucking game. You just look at, basically, the thing with Carrigan is he has the greatest flaw of any GOAT candidate ever, because the longevity and all essentially everything except win all the majors is what he has. He has everything else chalked out. So Glaive, if he actually had only ever shown himself to be godlike in Astralis and then he's quit that day, in your brain, we all do this. We'd all go, mate, if he'd have stuck around, he could have won for 3-4 more years. We'd have all imagined, imagine him with the heroic boys. He'd have fucking won with them too. When Katie and Phil, we'd have gone, but if you'd had Glaive, you'd have won that major. And so, and that way, Carrigan could never have become the GOAT because he'd always be chasing the ghost of Glaive. And I do think actually people would care more about the whole, like, you didn't get 4 majors, Carrigan angle. Whereas now I feel like people have forgiven it because, as we're saying, they're sort of using different metrics as to why he's the GOAT now. It's things like working with different styles, changing the game. So that's my hot take. Glaive actually could have essentially just played less of his career. And I think he'd actually have a stronger case for most people. Not for me. Like, by the way, I don't take it away from him now. I still think he could be the GOAT. I think it's a totally legit argument. But what do you think?
I don't know if it's a legit argument anymore. I think you just pointed it out yourself and explained it completely. After 2020 and the decisions that he was making, he kind of took himself out of that conversation and kind of crowned Carrigan as the GOAT IGL, right?
I think you can make that
you
case.
said it yourself. Like, I agree with the fact that if he stopped there, he would be in the conversation, definitely. 4 majors, Astralis era, strongest era, best, yes. Not superstar players, everything worked around him, blah, 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 whatever, right? We would be still talking today. Oh, imagine, you remember Glaive? He won that shit and then he retired. Imagine if he stayed.
Yeah. Think about Khabib. Khabib in MMA has that because we never saw him lose, basically. You feel like he'd never lose, would you, ever? Yeah.
100% would be that conversation. 100%. But good, or I guess bad for him and good for all of us. And the fact that he did stay, made some bad choices.
True.
Including Ents, including Ents and the whole thing. He was given what Carrigan was given as well in a similar, similar type of players. He couldn't make it work. That's and Carrigan could. That's the difference between those two. That's why Carrigan is the GOAT, and Glaive is not in the conversation. Not that we are saying at all that Glaive wasn't one of the best IGLs in the history of Counter-Strike, because he definitely did. And I said it multiple times and say it again. The Astralis thing is like we were never really too scared too much from Device or Dupree. You were scared from Zipnix and Glaive in that games that you play against them, and I played them quite a few against them, and I know what the most dangerous people were there, and Glaive was one of them. But he made some, like I said, bad choices or wrong choices or whatever you want to call them.
Yes.
And Carrigan did better in any aspect of like decision making to game style, to adapting, to doing all of these things. Not counting right now this year, but up until the 2025 GOAT. That's it.
I don't see how Glaive's not. I don't see how Glaive's not the GOAT. Actually, I feel like he still is. I get that. I feel like
rings matter to you, right? Rings do matter, right?
I feel like it's also length of peak as an in-game leader, and his peak was pretty damn long. I mean, it was 4 majors long. I mean,
just careful.
Okay. So Carrigan wins on the aspect that he has fought with multiple different
Why did he just
lineups.
sit up like that and start focusing really carefully? He's about to like break whatever you're going to say or something. Like you made him invest. Okay. I like
Yeah, because Kassad's sitting forward, I have to now structure my argument a lot more cleaner now.
Called him the GOAT.
Well, because I didn't think we were going to have a GOAT IGL conversation today, and now I have to.
It's all good.
No, I have to think about it so much more carefully because you're just really held accountable on these kinds of debates. It's just so important. I mean, I think that the people that really have I think the people that right now in like the modern, again, I use modern era because I say CS going on because I don't know the history of Source in 1.6. So I say that's my modern era. So my 5 contenders are Apex, Carrigan, Fallen, Glaive. I don't see really anybody else that can really be in the running. But
that's only 4.
When I start
Apex, Carrigan.
That is only
there a
4.
fifth
You're right,
one?
that's
Oh,
only
there's just
4.
4. Okay, right, there's 4. Fair enough.
There's just 4. But the thing is that when I really think of accolades and what they've accomplished more recently, I don't know how I can exactly keep Carrigan's name if I don't include Alexi's name. Because Alexi got a lineup that was so much weaker on paper to win a major over Carrigan when they were the favorites in that event.
True.
And when I look at some of the body of work from Alexi from when he was on that ENCE roster, he was clearly overperforming.
He's actually probably slept on in that. By the way, that's your mini hot take there. I've actually been slept on as a fucking GOAT candidate, maybe. I don't know that he'd win, obviously, but he should probably be in the convo.
He is. I mean, he is slept on because the ENCE lineup was just it was just overperforming. The problem is that it's almost just like whereas people are looking at Glaive's last few years of his career, that's kind of what Alexi had for himself with OG, G2, maybe even NIP, where that was the stint of him upgrading as an international in-game leader instead of just being a Finnish in-game leader. So that it's almost like you kind of hold that against him, especially the G2 lineup. Like that's kind of the thing is with the G2 lineup and its inability to find deep runs or success. That's kind of what I would relate to Kerrigan, especially during the E-League times in a way, because that G2 lineup didn't even make it to the playoffs of the major with Mauisnake and NiKo, but it was super rookie raw Mauisnake and a lineup that I think Kerrigan's had better lineups. Like if you look pound for pound in terms of skill, what Kerrigan's won with is stronger than what Alexi's won with. So either way, I don't even think that they really can be taken as the GOAT right now, because I think that Glaive has it. I think that Glaive has it for the modern era. The fact that he's won 4 majors with 2 different lineups, and that I know Vu kind of says it's a super team. I think a lot of the major winning lineups are super teams, if I'm being like really strict with the definition there. So I think Glaive's still it doesn't matter because I'm not counting what Jordan did with the Wizards against him in my GOAT analysis of him. Like I almost think that it's in a way better that he did it in a Wizards jersey those last couple years, because if he had done it in a Bulls jersey, then we would have seen the fall off.
That's true.
But now I can
what about this though? I think we get the sense of your GOAT, but my actual point was, if Glaive had retired then, I think people would sort of idealise him more. Do you agree? Do you think it would be the same as now though? Do you think people would still think Kerrigan was the GOAT? What do you think?
I'd be hard pressed if people really think, because I think they did that Star Ladder like just quick fire takes of what people think, and IGL was. I wish I saw the numbers for it, because I thought Glaive was the most mentioned name for in-game leader. But like Apex had a lot of votes, Kerrigan had a lot of votes, Glaive had a lot of votes. I wish I could see it right now, because I feel like people still think Glaive is. I think he was
second.
IGL.
I believe he was second in the list.
Was he behind Kerrigan?
Let me have a look. Right,
I feel like I
have got it here. Right, Kerrigan got 11 votes, Glaive got 9, Apex got 7, and Fallen got 4. And by the way, Fallen's were just all the Brazilians, but that's obvious.
Of course they are, yeah.
So it was 11 to 9.
Okay, so that's disappointing, because I feel like we're crowning Kerrigan before he really has that like bookend achievement.
Do you need him to win another major? Do you need him to get a second one?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
I think because the whole argument of Kerrigan being the GOAT in-game leader is that he's made all these other lineups good, but it's like I've seen Snappy make a lot of lineups competitive. I mean, it doesn't make you a GOAT contender. You know, that's not. I do need the achievement. And the thing is with all-time great players, like I can live with Simple having the 1, because he is an individual player that is putting forward an individual performance. Yeah. But so much of the GOAT IGL's status is marked by achievement, because everything that we know or can perceive about their benefiting the team is interconnected with that team winning.
But it is to Maui, if you've ever noticed, it's very conspicuous that one of the only things Thorin has never done is a piece of content on who the GOAT IGL is. And that's because I am so torn on that one. Like, put it this way, I have an obvious bias to Kerrigan. If I really thought he was like ironclad the GOAT, I'd have just said it by now. I'd have even said it was Face and everyone else. I don't. Part of me can talk myself in and out of it like this. Like, part of me still feels like Glaive should probably get it. Because here's the problem, I know what you mean. Even though Kerrigan had different rosters, he had international rosters and English-speaking rosters, bro, he could also have won the format. He was in all the finals. But the difference is he didn't get a lot of those wins, and some of those he was a favourite, by the way. Like, the Na'Vi and the Cloud9 one will haunt him. If he'd had those ones and he had the 3, I could make my case easy all day long. But unfortunately, he was part of the chalk. He just was. Whereas the difference is, I'll tell you what, I'll do the same argument. Here's why I sort of have to say Glaive for now, mate. Because again, if you put the gun to my head and he gets to have the Astralis squad, I know Glaive can do it. Like, Glaive would save my life, you know what I mean? Mate, I'd still think of that fucking famous Fnatic round from IEM Chicago, whatever, where they should have lost and they just did like the perfect execute on Inferno B and just won the game in overtime. Like, shit like that was like out of a movie, mate. You wouldn't even believe that if I wrote that in a script for a fake version of esports. No, I think it's dope. Right, by the way, speaking of conversations you can just have forever with anyone throughout all of history, if you want to have more calls and chat with everyone for unlimited amount of time. Maybe check out Mint Mobile if you're in America, because they have all sorts of great plans for the holidays, don't they? They have unlimited plans that are 50% off. You can get a 3, 6, or 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for only $15 a month. It's their best deal of the year. Makes it really easy. Then there's no excuse not to give your family a call. Anyone who calls you, no problem. So they've also got... you can bring your current phone number and your phone over to Mint. They have no contracts, no nonsense. It's their best deal of the year. So turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/hot take, all one word. That's mintmobile.com/hot take. This is a limited time only offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required, $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. Thank you to Mint Mobile for sponsoring that. I think even though we got a little bit longer than we normally do, let's do one last take. I've got one last fan take for you here, boys. One last fan take, and then we'll rock out of here. So here we go. Right. This is partially humorous, but we'll just see what you think. So Zumba says, oh, by the way, if you want to submit your own hot take, subscribe to the Last Nation Discord. There's a channel, CS Hot Takes. Zumba says, ZTR has deliberately pushed for bad AWPers, so the community narratives about GamerLegion are never about him. So he gets away with fragging worse than Huxley ever did, and calling equal to, if not worse than Snacks ever did. So it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I also feel like I think he is a ZTR hater. So what do we think, boys? Essentially, it's half a joke, but is ZTR like a fraud, basically? It's what he's sort of saying, I think.
I don't think he's that important to even be having this type of conversation. I think
that's not a good sign. Is it? Okay.
I mean, it's just like ZTR right now. They had success with him being an IGL, right? They had failures. I don't think it's on him though. I think it's the Ash needs to take some responsibility on that one. The same way he took credit for the good ones as well, the trades, the transfers.
True.
We all praised him. We still praise him, and that he is one of the better coaches in the scene right now. The new generation of these coaches, together with So and some other people, right? And then he made some good choices, very good choices with GamerLegion, like with Famous or whatever, like more players, and definitely put that team into the sphere where they play and we talk about them, right? And they are being mentioned in the playoff as a playoff contenders, as an underdog that can win, a dark horse, whatever, right? And then they made some terrible choices out of maybe bad judgment or necessity.
Yeah.
Maybe it's necessity. Maybe they couldn't get anyone, right? When it comes to Towson, especially this Hypex kid, and it's like, and to blame ZTR for that, I think it's a little bit, unnecessary and unjustified. But like I said, he's not even that important to be having this conversation. Like, if he stops playing tomorrow, would anyone care? I mean, stops being the IGL of GamerLegion. Would that make a difference in anything that's going on?
Put it this way, there were more important takes, but the problem is with the episodes, I didn't want to launch another 20-minute GOAT discussion. So I picked the more humorous one.
No, not for the show. Not for the show. Like, obviously, you mentioned the take, we're going to take it, we're going to talk about it. Yeah. But I mean, in general, like, he's that type of a player that doesn't really, he's not on the spotlight, but he's not like, totally invisible or a nobody. But if he stopped playing tomorrow or he got replaced tomorrow, would that make any change in the landscape of Counter-Strike and the strength of the teams? And would it be a change in the order of teams being strong or weak? No. So if they change him, they can do better. If they don't change him, they can still be a good team with some other changes. I don't think it's his fault. That's okay. My point.
ZTR is just kind of it's hard to really make a strong take about him because I've always liked his calling more earlier on this lineup and earlier when he was doing stuff with NIP actually. but I've seen some pretty bad moments from him, GamerLegion's T sides, and yeah, the individual form aspect is one that is pretty hard to not notice. I mean, because ZTR is putting up hooksy numbers, but doing it more against tier 2 opposition, he is pretty dramatically bad. Like, I mean, it's a hindrance. Like, he is a hindrance as an individual, because even on CT sides, you kind of would hope that he just wouldn't die as much, but he kind of does. I mean, the conspiracy here that he's somehow selecting these AWPers is funny. I mean, I think there's a few aspects with GamerLegion that really sent them home so early, but losing to Red Canids and Fluxo, that's just, I mean, those are just inexcusable losses. I don't even care. In the BO1s, it's like, you know, there's a little bit more randomness, but you can't be losing to both of them. Like, that's just too much. And it seemed like they were relying that they were going to do run it back like they did at, what was it, Shanghai, I guess, when they were 0-2 down, and they brought it back to 3-2 or something. I mean, it doesn't really matter. They just weren't really ready for it, and a few of their players didn't play up to what they normally do. Actually, you know what? Hypix did fine. Their new AWPer did fine in some of their games, so I can't even really blame him. So I don't know. GamerLegion is such a weird conversation. I guess I haven't watched them close enough recently, other than their Bucharest run, which looked pretty fine to me. But then this one was just disastrous. It's just.
My problem with ZTR is he's one of those, like, I generally think you can only really tell if someone's a good IGL if they're really good at IGL or really fucking bad. Like, they have to have a massive impact where it's clear that, like, their fingerprints are on the game for good or for bad. The problem is he's in the middle for me. He's kind of just a meh player. I'm more like kassad. Like, I wouldn't hate it if you replaced him at the same time. Maybe for this level of team, he's all right. I think the big problem I have with ZTR is this. Seems like he calls an all right game, but, like, I'll tell you an example why I don't think he's, like, a brilliant tactician. Because do you know what? I think PR and Res are better than anyone on 3D Max, and 3D Max gets a lot more done with their tactics. Like, that's an example of a team where, like, I think everyone's just fucking mid, but I tell you what, they play as a fucking squad and they know what they're doing. Like, I've every time I watch them play, I have respect for them, even if I'm not a fan. Like, I don't enjoy watching them, I enjoy what they do to other teams. So my big problem is it makes me feel like he's not brilliant. But then again, I also believe the kassad thing. Here's why no one should ever blame Ash for essentially branding himself and using the whole, like, fucking YouTube channel. One, he's the only person left from the fucking that major run, so he has to, there's no Immer anymore to go him, so that's a clever angle to tie back to that. And then secondly, if anything, he's brought status to GamerLegion that no one else has. Notice how when anyone gets kicked out of the top team, guys, Rain, Glaive, everyone wants them to join GamerLegion. Spoiler, they don't want to join GamerLegion. GamerLegion's considered like a tier 2 org where you're not going to get big money. They're never going to sign big names. Like, the joke is, I might laugh at OG. OG gets way bigger names. Cadian, why wasn't he joining GamerLegion by that logic? So unfortunately, on paper, oh yeah, if you could give me Glaive instead of retiring off Snap, he went to GamerLegion, I think they could cook with those guys. I just don't feel like those guys can go. So if I'm asking, who can Ash and GamerLegion get? I think much like almost every player they have, it has to be someone who hasn't been good yet, or is considered like you're recycling them. They had their chance. ZTR had his chance, people believe, because of the other teams he was in Sweden. So that was like a reclaimed player, just like he reclaimed Rez. He found PR out of nowhere. So I also just think, like, it's about scale. Like, I think he's actually appropriate for GamerLegion right now. Again, I would just ask someone the question, who can I sign? And then when you give me the answer, I'll just probably tell you can't sign any of those players. They all want more money and they'd all rather be an even Fnatic or something. You know what I mean? Like, I think people are overestimating because we all like Ash and he's made his profile big. I don't think GamerLegion, like, the joke would be, everyone makes fun of Nip and Fnatic. Nip and Fnatic get talent way easier than GamerLegion does, boys. Like, they actually get fucking good players sometimes, yeah. He doesn't get ex-Kaspersky's and fucking Matisse's and stuff. They just don't go his way generally, unless he's so lucky he gets ahead of everyone to get to them first, you know. So, and by the way, it is a funny post, though. But that's another reason I wanted to show that post is because the first fan take was like a good hot take. This one's more just they got the sense of humour of the show. They made it at least entertaining how he like framed it, etc. Because he sort of made it like it wasn't even Ash or fucking hype. It was ZTR all along. Like, now I must get a shitter AWPer. So Kersey, yes, he is good. I believe he will be good. And then he's just like, right, oh, we're going to fire Kersey. Well, listen, boss, I'll need like 3 months more with the new AWPer to really bed him in, so keep their contracts running. Keep it rolling. Like, I know what you mean, because let's be real. If they did, by the way, if they did kick ZTR out of this team, he's going to be back on Metasports, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be good. He's going to be playing with JW. That's it. Like, it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
It's over.